I'm sure you know about Arundhati Roy, who 24 years ago in 1997 became the rock star of Indian literature when she published her first book called The God of Small Things, and it got the Man Booker Prize the following year. Much has been said about her prose and her writing, particularly in fiction, but sadly for the next 20 years she didn't write any fiction and mostly focused on her essays and non-fiction works, some of which I have discussed in one of the previous podcasts. About the literary dimension of this book, The God of Small Things, I will talk about it at some point in another podcast. Today, in this podcast, I'm going to leave you with some of her writings, her prose, and the varied vocabulary and sentences she uses. So it'll give you some taste of the style of her writing. So I'm going to read some pages from this book, and I hope you will see the beauty of this literature. Let's start. May in IMNM is a hot, brooding month. The days are long and humid. The river shrinks and black crows gorge on bright mangoes in still dust-green trees. Red bananas ripen. Jackfruits burst. Dissolute blue bottles hum vacuously in the fruity air. Then they stun themselves against clear window panes and die, fatly baffled in the sun. The nights are clear, but suffused with sloth and sullen expectation. But by early June, the southwest monsoon breaks and there are 3 months of wind and water with short spells of sharp, glittering sunshine that thrilled children snatch to play with. The countryside turns an immodest green. Boundaries blur as tapioca fences take root and bloom. Brick walls turn moss green. Pepper vines snake up electric poles. Wild creepers burst through laterite banks and spill across the flooded roads. Boats ply in the bazaars, and small fish appear in the puddles that fill the PWD potholes on the highways. It was raining when Rahel came back to IMNM. Slanting silver ropes slammed into loose earth, ploughing it up like gunfire. The old house on the hill wore its steep, gabled roof pulled over its ears like a low hat. The walls, streaked with moss, had grown soft and bulged a little with dampness that seeped up from the ground. The wild, overgrown garden was full of the whisper and scurry of small lives. In the undergrowth, a rat snake rubbed itself against a glistening stone. Hopeful yellow bullfrogs cruised the scummy pond for mates. A drenched mongoose flashed across the leaf-strewn driveway. The house itself looked empty. The doors and windows were locked. The front veranda bare, unfurnished. But the sky blue Plymouth with chrome tail fins was still parked outside, and inside, baby Kochamma was still alive. She was Rahel's baby grandaunt, her grandfather's younger sister. Her name was really Naomi Ipe, but everybody called her baby. She became baby Kochamma when she was old enough to be an aunt. Rahel hadn't come to see her though. Neither niece nor baby grand aunt labored under any illusions on that account. Rahel had come to see her brother Esther. They were two egg twins. Dizygotic, doctors called them, born from separate but simultaneously fertilized eggs. Esther was the older by 18 minutes. They never did look much like each other, Esther and Rahel. And even when they were thin armed children, flat chested, worm ridden, and Elvis Presley puffed, there was none of the usual who is who and which is which from over smiling relatives, or the Syrian Orthodox bishops who frequently visited the IMNM house for donations. The confusion lay in a deeper, more secret place. In those early amorphous years, when memory had only just begun, when life was full of beginnings and no ends, and everything was forever, Esther and Rahel thought of themselves together as me, and separately, individually, as we or us, as though they were a rare breed of Siamese twins, physically separate but with joint identities. Now, these years later, Rahel has a memory of waking up one night giggling at Esther's funny dream. She has other memories too, that she has no right to have.